Hi, I am Martha Hines, and I'm here with Sharon Eisenhauer, who is here for an interview about her life journey and her own awakening process and what she is offering to the world. A lot of beautiful things. So I wanted to do a series of interviews with people as a gift to others of you who are in your own awakening process. And I want to allow people to have a chance to voice their own perspective on what this awakening process is that's going on the planet. There's a lot of talk about quote unquote awakening, and I've been channeling books that are guides for people who are in awakening. But I think it's a really interesting question to hear different people's perspectives on what that is for them. And then also in my own experience and in a lot of others' experiences, that awakening time can be very challenging and confusing. So I'm wanting to bring perspectives and wisdom from others like Sharon that might support all of you going through your own awakening time. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for asking me.
Yeah. The first question I have is, what is your perspective on this awakening that's happening on the planet? What's your take on what's going on?
It's, I guess, perspective, because I've been so immersed in it, it's sometimes hard to get perspective, because I think of perspective as being sort of an outside view, you know? For me, my experience of it has been about this thread that has been woven throughout my life, being raised, going to, Catholic school all my life until through grade school and high school, and always feeling like the odd one, never quite feeling in alignment with that, always having some sort of question as to how do I fit, but never having any sense of clarity about what that meant, that oddness, and what my purpose was here, until I kind of found myself immersed in this deep dive into the divine feminine. As far as a planetary piece, what I'm seeing and feeling and experiencing everywhere is that there is this awareness of the feminine, the divine in the feminine, that is so necessary to balance all of this patriarchal masculine, the unbalanced masculine energy that has led the course for millennia. And it's happening, everywhere, from in personal experience to, on the political stage, with people like Marianne Williamson coming up and speaking from a very different perspective than everybody else out there is taking. And it's people are finally starting to pay attention. And it's really exciting. And whether or not, you think she is in alignment as far as a political, point of view or not, isn't the point. To me, it's about listening and hearing what she has to say as an example. That is for me the undercurrent of what all of this is about.
Awesome. So can you say more about what the divine feminine and divine masculine mean for you?
having been raised in the Catholic Church, the, you know, you're sinners, God is masculine, you're, you know, born a sinner essentially, and you got to make it right, you got to do it right, is the perspective that I was raised with. What I am coming to know now with the incorporation of the divine feminine is that we are all inherently lovable. There isn't sin that we already have that we have to get rid of. And learning how to embrace that inherent lovability and peel all the crap that gets piled on top of it, that we've interwoven and taken in as our being, from a feminine perspective, and then recognizing there is a sacred masculine that isn't the punishing, damning, masculine presence that I was raised with. It's a gentle, guiding, clear essence that is very different and very much more balanced. It's, you know, if you look at it in terms of the masculine being the sun and the feminine being the earth, you know, the intersection there is for me what that dance is about, as opposed to, you know, you're bad, you're going to hell unless you make it right.
Right. Beautiful. And how does the work that you're coming into now support that? Or like, how do you see your role moving into supporting the coming into this divine feminine awakening, sacred divine feminine and masculine awakening on the planet?
The way I've been experiencing all this in the past little over a year has been through a mystery school, specifically for me, the 13 Moon Mystery School, where we take 13 different archetypes of the divine feminine, and each moon, each month, we do an intensive deep dive with a particular archetype, whether it's the goddess of compassion or the great mother or Kali, or you know, there are 13 of them, and this process takes you through experiences of both the shadow and the light of that particular archetype. For example, in the muse, you know, the muse is, you know, endlessly creative and delightful and inspiring and spontaneous and all of that. And the shadow part of that is the muse can be very spacey and not very grounded and very, you know, ethereal and out there. So it's the process of these initiations. My experience of it has been that it brings up that shadow so that it can be healed, and transmuted, and so that we're living more in alignment with the feminine and masculine aspects of that particular shadow. There's an archetype called Lady of Communion that is specifically about the divine masculine and the divine feminine and the marriage of the two of them. And if you're, you know, out of balance in one or the other, it's about bringing those into balance.
And that's within yourself?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So like the sacred inner marriage?
Exactly. Hieros Gamos. Yeah.
Beautiful. And so I know that you have this extremely beautiful website, and you're bringing together offerings to the world regarding the divine feminine and reemergence of the divine feminine. Do you want to say more about that?
Sure.
Goal with that?
What I've been called to do, I'm finding that part of my path is as a bridger, a connector. And hi, Kitty. What the website that I've created is called A Modern Priestess. And it is an offering for priests and priestesses, emissaries of the divine feminine in particular, services and books, and your book is on the site, offerings of initiations or sacred travel or archetypal wear or crystals or tools, rattles, drums, etc., for doing this work in honoring of the divine feminine. And in addition, just with the new moon here, I launched a podcast called A Modern Priestess as well. It's up on iTunes. And it is, throughout the year, we will be interviewing what we call temple keepers. They are men and women who hold the temples of these particular archetypes. So we'll focus on a different one each moon, and then interspersed with those interviews will be interviews with other people who are working in different capacities with the divine feminine and divine masculine, and helping bring this awakening to the collective. And it's intended, the podcast in particular is intended as a bridge between I'm calling them the priestess curious, the people who, have some inkling and there's some sort of, what is this? I feel something, I hear something, but I don't know how to get from here to there. And this podcast is intended as a bridge to help bring better understanding and places where you can go, oh, that makes more sense. I want to dive into this more deeply.
Right. That's great. Do you want to say some about your own process of coming into this time of your life, or anything you want to share about your background yourself?
Sure. Thank you. In the process of my life, I spent decades in relationship with other beings, trying to, I believe, complete myself through these relationships. And, as you know, it's doing it on an external level is not ultimately going to probably last. That goal being the hieros gamos, the inner marriage. But what I was attempting to do in the outer world was, find that mothering that I, may not have received as a child, find that fathering I may not have received as a child, and experience that in other relationships. In fact, I married a man, and then I later married a woman. Mm-hmm. So I very literally was looking for those experiences. And a year and a half ago, I ended a 3-year relationship with a man where I didn't understand what was going on, but I knew that I had to stand in a different way in my life. I needed to commit to what was coming up within me. And I loved this person incredibly, deeply, and still do. However, I knew that I was searching for something on the outside that I had to find in here. Mm-hmm. And in this process, I was called to move 60 miles away from where my daughter lives. My daughter's 15 years old. And that was a wrenching process. She fortunately has the benefit of having 2 moms mm-hmm. and a great community. And what I learned in this process of mothering, and this is probably one of the biggest pieces in this that I have to share with the collective, is an understanding of a different way to mother. Mm-hmm. the entire time I was raising her, I had in my head that I had to be a certain kind of mother. I had to be this picture of this perfect nurturing mother who makes lunches and, and writes little notes in the lunches and does all those things that didn't come naturally to me. It felt forced. It wasn't, I had no interest in other people's children. I didn't want to hang out with moms on the playground. It just wasn't the kind of mom that I was. And I'm incredibly devoted to this being who's incredible. But as a result of my trying to mother in a way that wasn't natural to me, there was a part of me that was angry because I was doing something contrary to my nature. And it would come out in unconscious ways, to the point where at one point my daughter said to me when I was reading to her at night, she said, "Mommy, why don't you like me?" Oh. And I was heartbroken to hear that. And what do you, as a mom, it's just like, oh, Jesus, I love you more than anything. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. Mm-hmm. In this process, what this moving, and I'm driving back and forth, constantly to be with my daughter. However, what this separation allowed me to do was to step back and look at what was appropriate relationship with this child, and forgive myself for not being that kind of mother that I thought I should be. And thankfully, learning in the process that in Mayan cultures, when a woman was pregnant, the priestesses would determine whether she was to be a nurturing mother or a creative spiritual mother. Wow. And that if you were one and you were trying to be the other, it wouldn't work. Mm. Christian Northrup writes about this in Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, where she herself says, I was not the nurturing mother, and to have tried to have been that would have been a disservice to my children and myself. Mm-hmm. And I realized I was doing such a disservice to my daughter to try to force myself into a mold that was not natural to me. And what a gift it is to her to be able to stand and say, this is what is true. This is what is right. And yes, to be a creative spiritual mother, to hold you and our relationship in that way feels absolutely true. I can hold that 180 million %. Mm-hmm. And as a result, our relationship has changed so much. It's so much more true and real and honest. Mm. And I wouldn't have had the gift of that had I been trying to maneuver within that container, still trying to fit myself within that, beating the crap out of myself for not being that and not understanding why. I couldn't do it in that way. And so I wrote about this in a blog post that is on a Modern Priestess, where I talk about this whole process. And so many women have written to me and said, oh my God, thank God, because I was not that. And I've been trying to be that. And it's so not me. And I think women in general, that's that patriarchal model of what a mother should be. Right. And some mothers are that, yes, but many mothers are not. Right. And to be able to hold both and is such an incredible gift. So that has been the biggest awakening that I have had in this process. And I'm sure there are many, many, many more to come.
And so does that just essentially relate also to when you are exploring these 13 archetypes of the divine feminine, I mean, it seems like a parallel there, that there are all these different ways of being in the world, and that we contain all of them. I mean, my way of thinking is we contain all of them, right, within ourselves,
Yes.
but some will manifest more strongly in us in one moment and other times. I mean, not because I'm sure you're not never nurturing. I mean, I'm sure there are moments when you do feel nurturing, and then, but just more of you is more of the creative, spiritual type of mother. That, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly that. And for me, a big piece of this work has been continually going back to the Great Mother over and over and over again, recognizing that I am safe, I am loved, I am held.
Mm-hmm.
As I develop that process, develop that knowing more deeply in myself, I'm able to offer it more to my daughter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it seems like in general, I mean, like in my own experience right now, the book I just channeled is Gaia, which obviously is a goddess, and then I just started channeling Lilith. Sort of funny, but it seems like this is wanting to come through in so many different ways for so many different people, that there are these unexplored or shamed parts of us, or squashed down parts of us, or whatever it is, and that we are everything.
Yes.
We are and then how freeing to be able to, it's like when you can't move your shoulder, feels similar to me, like when you have restricted range of motion in your body, it's
Yes.
like you're cut off in a certain way, and you need to be able to do everything, move your whole being, not just the nurturing part, or just the angry part, or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that is when disease happens,
Yeah.
when we aren't working with that part, and a part that's coming up particularly strongly for me right now is the primal goddess, Lilith. And it's it's interesting. In a week and a half, I'll be turning 58, and it's I think a lot of women are in this place where at this age, we've just come through menopause, and we think, oh, that primal part of our lives is over. And it's like, oh my God, no, it's just freaking beginning.
Nice.
And to really be able to, and like you said, it's been a forbidden thing.
Yeah.
Particularly for older women, particularly for women in this stage of life. It's like, are you serious? But I'm reveling in the idea of finally embracing that part of myself, which I misused previously in my life. I misused it in terms of seduction and things like that, where it was always alive. Hi, sweetheart. But I didn't know how. Yeah, she's like, "Row." I didn't know how to channel it appropriately, and our society doesn't give us a container for channeling that.
Right.
But when we get to know what sacred sexuality is about, and I'm just beginning to learn, what all of that is about, it's like finally feeling like I'm coming alive on every level, like that part of my body is not cut off anymore.
Yes.
or being used inappropriately.
Right. Yeah. And it seems like such a thing that so many women, and I would say probably men too, are needing. I mean, men in a different way maybe, but
Sure.
when I've been working with women lately, like doing astrological readings for people, one of the symbols that I particularly love is the Black Moon Lilith in the chart. And when I bring up for the person where their Black Moon Lilith falls, it's the part of us that's been shamed or squashed down or whatever in it, but it's actually who we are. I mean, fundamentally, we are very strongly that thing, whatever it happens to be, but we've been told not to be that thing, right? And then we can move through in this life. One of our opportunities is to move and claim the power of that, whatever that thing, part of us is. And when I, over and over and over again, when I bring up that Black Moon Lilith part of a woman's chart in particular, that's when they light up. It's really interesting. They go, that's exactly it. That's right. That's me. Yes, I'm not allowed to be that thing. I need to be that thing, you know, and then suddenly it's like, I see the real them, and it goes boom. I mean, not that we're only our Black Moon Lilith, but it's women are really needing and wanting permission to step into their power in all kinds of ways. And it seems like this Lilith voice or energy is helping us do that. And I don't know, it seems like it's a pretty big deal. It keeps coming up in my life.
Excellent. Oh, that's so exciting to hear. Yeah. You know, we put on, you know, in the 80s, we put on the masculine version of what we thought was power with our suits, with our padded shoulders and our bow tie, you know, stuff. And it's just like, no, that's not it. That's not it at all.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think the patriarchy often defines women embodying that as slutty or trashy or whatever. And, you know, and it can be, you know, expressed, it can be expressed in a way that comes off in that way. But when it's channeled from truth,
yes,
you know, it's juicy and it's yummy and it's, you know, finally.
Yeah. And it's powerful and it's healing. And in the Gaia book that I just channeled, she talks about how she needs us to remember our divine sexuality, because it's where we come from. I mean, that, you know, everything is actually sexual. If you think about it, right? Like stars, when they exploded, I mean, what is that other than a sexual energy? Everything was creative energy. Yeah. It's a creative energy, right? So when we can open ourselves up to that, it's not even like the way she talks about it, it's not even about whether you're having sex, like a sexual relationship with another human. It's that in our cells, like literally actually in our cells, we can feel that same explosion of creative life. Yeah. Yeah. So many different words for it. And that's when we open that up, that helps us open up to, well, one way she puts it is like, you know, being the channel that we are for
the light.
All of what needs to come, whatever it is that needs to come through us in particular.
Yeah. And when we block it, we're literally just shutting off that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Putting a lock on that and going, now.
Yeah. So it's a really exciting time, I think, that so many of us are realizing this. Great.
Yeah. And, you know, thankfully there are so many women coming in that are a lot younger than I am that won't, you know, that will have the opportunity to open this up even sooner. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what a gift to those of us that, you know, now are finally recognizing this, and that we won't, you know, die having never experienced this this incredible part of ourselves.
So on that note, I guess my last question for you would be, if you could give any gift or advice to people who are coming into their, you know, awakening, whatever that is for them, what would that be?
Just to trust that little knowing that's, you know, kind of, it's you know, I've heard it described often as the still small voice, you know, that's back there going, you know, sort of tapping you on the shoulder that you may judge as weird, or you know, I mentioned in the podcast having said to my boyfriend, you know, I'm a witch, don't you? And I had no idea what I was saying. I didn't even know what that meant, but it was what was coming up. Mm-hmm. And I think I was just sort of testing him, going, is it okay to say this? You know, is it? And so just to maybe those little things that come up in the back of your head, test it with a safe person and see, you know, and trust that and follow that still small voice, and you'll find that it'll get larger and more um, exciting feeling.
Mm.
And you will know, you will know what is right for you. There may be questions. I say without question. There will be little questions from the little voice, in the back of your head that is always critical, but there will be also a knowing, an internal knowing in your body, and trust it and listen to it and follow it. And even if you have to read books in secret under your covers, do it.
Yeah.
So just explore and explore and explore, and allow yourself the gift of this unfolding in whatever is the right timing for you, in whatever way you can hold it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to say?
Just thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you for talking. I
Mm,
love what you're doing.
Thank you. And you as well, Martha. Thanks.